Sergeant Kralvex had broken every species in the galaxy. That was not an exaggeration. In his 30 years as chief drill instructor at the Galactic Defense Academy, he had personally witnessed the complete psychological collapse of Thorian berserkers, the surrender of Klendathi warriors who were literally born in volcanic forges, and the tearful withdrawal of species whose entire culture revolved around never showing weakness. His success rate was a point of pride. The Academy's motto might as well have been, "Come for the prestige, stay because you are physically incapable of moving." So when orientation day rolled around and Kralvex stomped onto the platform to address the 217 trembling cadets, he expected the usual response. Fear, respect, perhaps a few involuntary bodily functions from the more anxious species. What he did not expect was for one of them to be grinning like he had just won some sort of stupid prize. The grinning idiot was human. The first human ever to attend the Academy, according to the file. His name was Marcus Webb, and he looked absurdly pleased to be there. Kralvex's 4 eyes narrowed. Humans were new to the galactic stage. Their homeworld had only been discovered 3 cycles ago, and they had barely been cleared for coalition membership. Something about needing to prove they were not going to immediately declare war on everyone. Apparently, that was a concern. "Cadets!" Kralvex began, his voice echoing across the assembly hall like grinding tectonic plates. "Welcome to the Galactic Defense Academy. Some of you will leave here as soldiers, most of you will leave here in pieces. Metaphorically speaking, mostly." A Vexillian in the front row fainted. Good. That saved time. "Your first trial will be the Gauntlet of Despair. It has a 2% pass rate. The record completion time is 5 hours and 53 minutes. No one, and I mean no one, has ever finished it in under 5 hours. Marcus Webb raised his hand. Kralvex stared at him. "What?" "Is there a leaderboard?" Marcus asked, still grinning. "Like, do you post the time somewhere, or is it more of an honor system thing?" Several cadets turned to look at the human as if he had just volunteered for a suicide mission, which, to be fair, he kind of had. Kralvex felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest. It might have been respect. It was more likely indigestion. "Yes, there is a leaderboard. Your name will not be on it." "Challenge accepted," Marcus said cheerfully. This was going to be a long semester. The next morning, Kralvex led the cadets to the edge of the gauntlet. It stretched out before them like a nightmare designed by a committee of sadists, which, to be fair, it absolutely was. "Zone 1, Kralvex announced, gesturing to a massive chamber that seemed to flicker and warp. "Zero-gravity combat simulation. You will navigate through hostile fire while experiencing complete spatial disorientation. Most species vomit within the first 30 seconds. You will not be given time to clean yourselves." A small, insectoid cadet named Vrix made a chittering sound that the translator rendered as, "Oh no, oh no, oh no." "Zone 2, Kralvex continued, pointing to a section that glowed an ominous green. "Toxic atmosphere chamber. The air is filled with compounds lethal to 63% of known biology. You will be provided with rebreathers. They malfunction 11% of the time. This is intentional." Thum, a massive bipedal rock creature, raised one boulder-like hand. "Question: what if our species does not breathe? Then you will experience existential dread instead. Moving on." Marcus was taking notes on an actual paper notepad. Who even used those anymore? The human scribbled something, then looked up. "Quick question. What is the record for most completions in a single semester?" Kralvex felt his jaw plates tighten. 1. The record is 1, because no one is stupid enough to do this twice. Cool. Just planning ahead. "Zone 3, Kralvex said, deciding to ignore the human before he had an aneurysm. "Variable gravity wells. You will experience gravitational forces ranging from 0.1 standard to 6.7 standard. The transitions are instantaneous. If you have a skeletal structure, it will protest." He paused for effect. "Zone 4 is the volcanic endurance run, 3 miles through superheated terrain with limited oxygen. This is where 90% of cadets fail. The temperature averages 412 degrees. The ground is literally lava in some sections." Marcus raised his hand again. "What now?" Kralvex growled. "Can I do it barefoot?" I have been working on my heat tolerance. Every single cadet turned to stare at Marcus. Vrix's translator emitted a sound like a tea kettle having a breakdown. Kralvex stepped closer to the human, leaning down so they were eye to eye, or rather eyes to eye since Kralvex had 4 and Marcus only had the standard 2. Cadet Webb, are you mocking me? No, sir, genuinely asking. I have done firewalks before and figured this might be similar. Firewalks? Yeah, walking across hot coals. It is a whole thing back home, very spiritual, also kind of a party trick. Kralvex straightened up. He made a mental note to look up Earth's environmental classification later. Something was deeply wrong here. You will wear boots, he said flatly. This drill was designed by combining the worst environmental conditions from 12 different death worlds. It is, by definition, not humanly possible. Marcus smiled. It was the kind of smile that made Kralvex want to check his life insurance policy. Sounds fun. The gauntlet began at 0600 hours. Kralvex watched from the observation deck as 217 cadets entered Zone 1. He gave it 10 minutes before the first wave of dropouts. He was right. 9 minutes and 43 seconds in, a group of Peltharian cadets tumbled out of the zero-gravity chamber, stumbling and retching. One of them was crying. Kralvex nodded approvingly, ahead of schedule. By minute 15, Vrix was spinning helplessly in the zero-G field, all 6 limbs flailing in different directions. The insectoid's translator was emitting a continuous stream of what could only be described as panic static. A rescue drone had to fish him out. Thum made it through Zone 1, but collapsed immediately upon entering Zone 2. Apparently, rock creatures could experience existential dread. Who knew? And then there was Marcus. The human was parkouring. There was no other word for it. He was bouncing off walls, using the zero-gravity field to ricochet between obstacles, and somehow managing to avoid every single simulated weapons blast. At one point, he pushed off a ceiling panel, did a complete flip, and landed in the exit corridor with his arms raised like he had just stuck an Olympic dismount. Kralvex checked the monitors. Marcus's heart rate was elevated but stable. His expression was best described as delighted. "What in the 7 hells?" muttered Lieutenant Urix, Kralvex's second-in-command. In Zone 2, cadets were dropping left and right as the toxic atmosphere overwhelmed their rebreathers. Marcus waltzed through like he was taking a light stroll. He was singing. The monitors picked up the audio. "Highway to the danger zone, gonna take it right into the danger zone." "What is that noise?" Urix asked. "I think it is music," Kralvex said, feeling his soul leave his body. Zone 3 was where things got really concerning. The variable gravity hit like a sledgehammer. Cadets were being slammed into the floor 1 second and floating helplessly the next. It was designed to be disorienting, painful, and thoroughly demoralizing. Marcus adapted within seconds. When the gravity spiked, he dropped into a crouch, distributing his weight. When it dropped, he used the momentum to leap forward. He was treating a life-threatening military exercise like a playground jungle gym. Is he having fun?" Urix whispered. Kralvex did not answer. He was watching Marcus stop mid-drill, backtrack and pick up Vrix, who had been pancaked by a gravity spike. The human just scooped up the insectoid and kept going, carrying him like a particularly awkward backpack. "This should not be possible," Kralvex said. "The math does not work. That extra weight, the energy expenditure, he should be collapsing." Marcus crossed into Zone 4, still carrying Vrix, still smiling, and now offering what the monitors could only describe as completely unhelpful life advice. "Just vibe with it, man," Marcus said to Vrix, who was experiencing several different types of trauma simultaneously. "My yoga instructor always says that pain is just your body's way of saying hello. Very aggressively, with fire." Kralvex pulled up the medical readouts. Marcus's vitals were elevated but nowhere near critical. Meanwhile, cadets with twice his muscle mass and 3 times his cardiovascular capacity were being stretchered out. "Lieutenant Urix." "Yes, sir?" "I need you to check something for me. Check if Cadet Webb is a cyborg, or possibly a demon." "Sir?" "Just do it." That night, Kralvex sat in his office with a bottle of Corellian whiskey and Marcus Webb's personnel file. The whiskey was necessary. The file was horrifying. Name: Marcus Webb. Age: 24 standard years. Species: human. Homeworld: Earth. Previous military experience: none. Reason for joining: seemed like it would be a good workout. A good workout. The gauntlet of despair. A good workout. Kralvex scrolled further. Listed hobbies included rock climbing, CrossFit, ultramarathons, and something called parkour. There was a note that Marcus had completed something called an Ironman triathlon 6 months before applying to the academy. Kralvex pulled up the Galactic Encyclopedia and typed in Ironman triathlon. The entry loaded. He read it once, then again. Then he poured himself another drink. A 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike ride, a 26.2-mile run, all back-to-back, without stopping, for fun. Humans did this for fun. "No," Kralvex said to his empty office. "No, that cannot be right." He pulled up Earth's planetary classification. The screen loaded, and Kralvex felt his stomach drop into dimensions previously unknown to physics. Earth, Class 12, Death World. Gravity, 1.0 standard, which was actually on the high end of comfortable. Atmospheric composition, volatile oxygen-nitrogen mix capable of sustaining rapid combustion. Weather patterns, extreme and unpredictable. Native fauna, aggressively predatory. Ocean coverage, 71% filled with creatures that made Thorian war beasts look cuddly. And the humans, the mad, beautiful humans, had not only survived there but had decided to make things harder for themselves by inventing something called extreme sports. Kralvex found a video. It was titled Tough Mudder World Championship. He clicked it. 20 minutes later, he closed his computer, put his head in his hands, and seriously contemplated every life choice that had led him to this moment. Humans ran through electrified obstacles. They crawled through ice water. They climbed walls, swam through mud, and did all of this while other humans cheered them on. And they were smiling. All of them. Smiling. "They are insane," Kralvex whispered. "Their entire species is completely insane." He pulled up another file, Earth's Threat Assessment. It had been updated recently. The notes section made for grim reading. Human pain tolerance, abnormally high. Human endurance, borderline supernatural. Human attitude toward dangerous situations, concerning. Recommend psychological evaluation of entire species. Update. Evaluation complete. Results indicate humans consider risk-taking behavior fun and character building. Recommend never letting them discover military special operations training. Update. Too late. They invented their own. It is worse than ours. Kralvex poured the rest of the bottle into his glass and drank deeply. Tomorrow was the final day of the gauntlet. Marcus Webb was still in the running. So were 4 other cadets, including Vrix, who had somehow not died despite his best efforts. "I am too old for this," Kralvex muttered, and went to bed wondering if it was too late to transfer to a desk job. Day 3. The volcanic endurance run. This was where heroes came to die. Metaphorically speaking, sometimes literally. The academy had excellent insurance, but the paperwork was a nightmare. 5 cadets remained. Marcus, Vrix, and 3 others whose names Kralvex had stopped bothering to remember because they would probably be gone within the hour. The starting line was marked by a shimmering heat haze. Beyond it, the course stretched through terrain that could charitably be described as actively hostile to life. The ground glowed red in patches where magma bubbled beneath thin crusts of cooled rock. The air shimmered with heat waves. The oxygen content was just barely enough to sustain consciousness, assuming you were already in peak physical condition and had made peace with your gods. "This is it," Kralvex announced. 3 miles, 412 degrees average temperature, limited oxygen, unstable ground. This is the section where 90% of cadets fail. The record time for this segment alone is 2 hours and 17 minutes. Vrix was vibrating with terror. His exoskeleton was clicking in a rhythm that the translator kept trying to render as, "Why did I leave home? Why did I leave home? Why did I leave home?" Marcus was stretching his hamstrings. "Any questions?" Kralvex asked. Marcus raised his hand. Yeah, is there a water station at the halfway point, or should I pace myself on hydration? One of the other cadets, a Drexilian warrior covered in ceremonial scars, turned to Marcus and spoke for the first time all week. How are you not afraid? Marcus looked genuinely confused by the question. Afraid? Dude, have you ever tried hot yoga? This is basically that, but with rocks. And some light jogging. Hot yoga? Yeah, you do yoga in a room heated to like 105 degrees. It is amazing, really opens up the pores. The Drexilian stared at Marcus for a long moment, then turned to Kralvex. Sergeant, I would like to formally withdraw from the exercise. Granted. Anyone else? The other two cadets looked at each other, looked at Marcus, looked at the volcanic hellscape, and slowly raised their hands. Also granted. You two, he pointed at Marcus and Vrix. You are committed. Begin. Marcus took off at what could only be described as a light jog. Vrix scuttled after him, making sounds that suggested his species did have a word for existential regret after all. Kralvex watched from the monitoring station. The heat sensors showed temperatures spiking to 430 degrees in some sections. The oxygen levels were dropping. Any rational being would slow down, conserve energy, focus on survival. Marcus had taken his shirt off. Why? Irix asked from beside Kralvex. Why would he do that? I think he mentioned something about it getting warm, Kralvex said weakly. At the 1 mile mark, Vrix collapsed. The insectoid was done. Cooked, mentally, physically, and spiritually defeated. Marcus stopped, jogged back, and picked him up. Cadet Webb, you do not have to do this, Kralvex said over the comm system. You can leave him. The rescue drones will extract him. Marcus's voice came back, slightly winded but still absurdly cheerful. Nah, man, we are a team. Plus, I told him about Tough Mudders earlier. Humans pay like $150 to do stuff like this. He did not believe me. I am proving a point. You are going to fail, Kralvex said. The added weight, the extra energy expenditure, it is mathematically impossible. You know what else was mathematically impossible? My college GPA, and yet here we are. Marcus kept running. Vrix, now being carried in what could only be described as a fireman's carry, had stopped screaming and had moved on to a state of shocked acceptance. On Earth, Marcus said, his voice coming through the comm, there is this thing called the Badwater Ultra Marathon. It is 135 miles through Death Valley in July. Death Valley, they named it Death Valley, and people do it for fun. This is only 3 miles. 3 miles is basically a warm-up. 2 miles in. Marcus was slowing down. Finally. His vitals were spiking. He was still moving, but the pace had dropped from light jog to determined power walk. Cadet Webb, Kralvex said, you have proven your point. You can stop. Almost there, Marcus gasped. Just need to channel my inner David Goggins. Who is David Goggins? A human who makes me look like a quitter. At 2.7 miles, Marcus stumbled. Vrix slipped from his shoulders. For a moment, Kralvex thought it was over. Marcus caught himself, readjusted Vrix, and kept moving. The finish line appeared. 3 miles. Marcus crossed it and collapsed immediately, still holding on to Vrix. Kralvex checked the timer. 4 hours, 37 minutes. Total, for the entire gauntlet. A new Academy record, by over an hour. Marcus lay on his back, breathing hard, grinning at the ceiling. That was pretty good. Same time next week? Kralvex had no words. Vrix, still being cradled by the insane human, had begun laughing. It was the kind of laughter that suggested something important had broken in his brain. Cadet Webb. Yes, Sergeant? Never volunteer for anything ever again. Can I at least do the Arctic survival course next semester? Kralvex walked away without answering. He had a retirement application to fill out. The graduation ceremony was held 2 weeks later. 47 cadets had made it through the full program. Marcus Webb stood at the front of the formation, still looking absurdly pleased with himself. Kralvex gave his usual speech. Honor, duty, perseverance. The standard speech he had given for 30 years. Then he got to the medals portion. This semester, he began, his voice echoing across the parade ground. I have witnessed something I never thought I would see. In 30 years as an instructor at this academy, I have trained warriors from every corner of the galaxy. I have seen strength, courage, and determination in forms I could barely comprehend. He paused, looking directly at Marcus, and then I met a human. A species so new to the galactic stage that we barely have data on them. A species from a planet so hostile that it makes our training look like a vacation resort. A species that looks at impossible challenges and asks if they can do them twice. A few cadets chuckled. Marcus's grin widened. "Cadet Marcus Webb," Kralvex said, pulling out the top honor medal, "for completing the Gauntlet of Despair in record time, for demonstrating perseverance beyond all reasonable expectation, and for making me seriously reconsider everything I know about biology. I present you with the Commandant's Medal of Excellence." He pinned it to Marcus's uniform. The human snapped a salute. Kralvex returned it. "Sir," Marcus said quietly. "Thank you. This has been the best experience of my life." "That genuinely concerns me," Kralvex replied. "What does that say about your life?" "That I probably need a therapist and a new hobby." "And yet you are signed up for Arctic Survival Course next semester." "I heard it is really challenging. It is designed to break polar species who evolved in sub-zero temperatures." "Perfect. Hey, do you maybe want to train together sometime? We could go for a light jog. Nothing serious, just 20 or 30 miles. I know this great trail back on Earth. Really scenic, only about 15,000 feet of elevation gain." Kralvex stared at the human. 30 years. 30 years of service, of dedication, of turning soft cadets into hardened warriors. "Cadet Webb." "Yes, sir?" "I am retiring." "Oh, is it something I said?" "Yes, all of it. Everything you have ever said. Goodbye." Kralvex walked off the parade ground to polite applause. He had already submitted his retirement paperwork that morning. He had earned it. He had more than earned it. That evening, Marcus video-called home. His mother answered, her face appearing on the screen with that unique combination of pride and concern that only mothers could master. "Marcus! Honey! How was the training?" "Pretty chill, Mom. Made some friends, broke some records, the usual." In the background, Vrix could be heard screaming, "Chill! Chill! We walked through literal lava. Your species is insane. All of you. Completely, irredeemably, magnificently insane." Marcus's mom blinked. "Who is that?" "That is Vrix, my new best friend. He has been like this for 2 weeks. The medics say it is healthy processing." "That is wonderful, dear. Are you eating enough?" "Mom, they have a 20,000 calorie a day meal plan here. I am doing fine." 20,000? That seems like a lot. "Yeah, apparently most species only need like 3,000. Humans are weird." From his own quarters, Kralvex pulled up the final report on his terminal. He had one last duty before retirement, updating Earth's threat classification in the Galactic Defense Database. He typed slowly, choosing his words with care. "Earth threat classification, updated to Code Amber. Human species demonstrates abnormal physical capabilities, psychological resilience, and concerning enthusiasm for danger. Recommend monitoring but not engagement. Under no circumstances should humans be introduced to advanced military training protocols, as they will inevitably try to make them harder for recreational purposes. Current status, never again. Addendum. Too late, they are already here. May the ancestors have mercy on us all." He hit submit, closed his terminal, and looked out at the academy grounds one last time. Somewhere in the distance, he could hear Marcus Webb asking someone if they wanted to race him to the cafeteria. Kralvex smiled despite himself. Humans. Absolutely insane, but he had to admit, if the galaxy ever needed someone to run through hell carrying a teammate, and grinning the whole way, humanity had that covered. He poured himself one last drink, raised it in a silent toast to the most bewildering cadet he had ever trained, and walked off into retirement, secure in the knowledge that the Gauntlet of Despair had finally met its match. And that match was apparently available for round 2 next semester.